Hi there, how are you? I hope that you're very well. This is another one of these infrequent little catch up videos that I'm doing from time to time, just talking about what I've been up to and also what I've been thinking about over the last few weeks. Since the last one, a few nice things have happened. I played a music show down in Beckenham for a gig called Neighbourhood Sessions, where I was the opening support act for Tom Speight, and it was a great little gig. It was kind of perfect, really. Somebody who really likes music putting on an event for their community, and their community trusting them that whatever they put on is going to be good, so they come along and support it. It was in the church hall, a sort of very modern church hall down there in Beckenham, and it was kind of full. I think there was about 80 people in there, and a nice thing about it was quite a young audience, a lot of families, which was cool because there was a few kids there, and they were like this, at the beginning of the night when I was playing, they were really into it, and then as the evening went on, of course, the eyelids got heavier and they're kind of asleep by the end of the night, which was really nice because it gave it this community feel to it. They're only around the corner from their houses, so nobody had to go travel far to get home and stuff. So it was a great little event. The sound was really good. Everybody was just really into it and into having a good time. Like so many of these gigs, where someone is just doing it for the love of wanting to share great music. My set seemed to go well. People were joining in and singing along and had nice comments afterwards, and people came and bought CDs and stuff. And quite a few people were like, "What's your Instagram?" and wanting to follow me on Instagram. And I think it's the first time I played a show where nobody mentioned any social media other than Instagram, which was interesting to me. I thought was interesting anyway. And then Tom played, and he was great. His songs are really nice, and he had a lady called Hedara singing with him, and they were both really cool, and it was nice to meet them before and after the show as well. Here's some clips from the night of me playing and then of Tom and Hedara playing.
Onlookers take up to the sky, hundreds of yards covered but not so high. Frost has piled more desire than skill. He hit the tallest tree on St. Bright's Hill. But it's nothing if you crash. But what's worse is not having a second chance. That night my bones were scattered by a gale. Only a few left can tell the tale. Bill will never lose desire until when gravity pulls on us, you are with me from the end to the start. When gravity pulls on us,
the following week, I was with the Intellectuals doing some comedy improv at 1,000 Trades in the Jewellery Quarter area of Birmingham for an event called Midlands Improv. Now, Midlands Improv are running gigs pretty much every week, and there's a different sort of format or different theme to each week. And on this one that we were doing, there was 3 improv groups: us, Breakfast of Champions, and Behind the Headlines, and every group does something slightly different. So we do short form comedy improv games. The way I ended up describing it on the night, which was probably a bit silly, I said, who remembers whose line is it anyway? Well, it's a bit like that, but not as good. We just played those sort of short form comedy improv games. And then after us were Behind the Headlines, who, as the name suggests, do stuff based upon the news that week. And then finally the last act of the night were Breakfast of Champions, which I'll tell you a bit about what they did in a second. And the Intellectuals, if you don't know, is a group that I co-formed a few years ago, 2017 I think. I've done comedy improv with various different groups and different formats and stuff over the years, and at one point in my life I wasn't doing any at all, so I formed the Intellectuals with my friend, and we did a one-off gig to begin with, just to sort of see how it would go. A charitable gig for the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, and we enjoyed it, and people seemed to like it as well, so we carried on. We've actually done a whole load of shows since then. Obviously the pandemic caused a big pause to it, although we did manage to do 2 shows last year as well, but it's kicking off again now, doing these gigs. And basically it is a really lovely thing to do, because they're short form improv games. We have a sort of pool of probably between, I don't know, I'd have to think about it, 5 to 10 people who basically, if I can do a show, I say yes to a show, and then we slot in people who are available and in the right location, because people are spread all over the country who do stuff with us, and everyone in the group is like really talented, and some of them come from more acting backgrounds, some of them come from more comedy background, but everyone has very individual skills and things that they bring to it. So it's a lot of fun, and basically it's an excuse for me to hang out and be on stage with a load of my friends, which in a lot of my music stuff I'm on my own on stage, which I also like, but it's a difference. It's a different thing. So anyhow, for this show it was myself, Georgia Christodoulou and Nathan Blythe, and we did like a 25-minute set of, as I say, these short form comedy improv games. So what did we do? We ended up being in prison at one point in the accent game, so we were these two prisoners who then had to change accent every few moments, with the accents being suggested by the audience. There was improvised songs. We had Nathan and I had to do a one-voice job interview, which means we talk at the same time and try and say exactly the same word as each other, whilst Georgia interviewed us about being I can't remember what the job was now. But basically, these things, we get all these suggestions from the audience for the sort of the locations and stuff, and then we play the games based on what they've suggested. And it was great. I really like 1,000 Trades in the Jewellery Quarter. It's a great venue. It was upstairs. It's really interesting upstairs performance space. And again, it was pretty full. I'm not sure how many people were there. It's not a massive room, but it felt rather full, which was great. So much so that they ended up having to move the chairs forward as the night went on, and more people came and stuff. And anyway, I had a really good time. It was a lot of fun. Then I enjoyed watching the other groups and hanging out with them as well, actually. Before, there was like a warm-up for all the groups, so we all got to... I know a couple of them a bit from before, and then a lot of them I'd met for the first time in the other group, so it was fun to get to know them all a little bit. And then for Breakfast of Champions, their format consists of having somebody do a sort of 1-minute monologue, and then they take something from that and improvise around it, and then this person comes back on and does another minute-long monologue, and they do some more improv. And they asked if I wouldn't mind doing that. So, as well as doing our bit of improv, I then did this monologue for a minute based on something the audience suggested, and the audience suggested word was penguin. So I had to talk unprepared for a minute on the subject of penguin, and then after that, the guys in Breakfast of Champions did some improv, and then partway through that, something sparked another idea in me. So I got up and did another monologue, which ended up being on the subject of Stoicism and the writings of Seneca, and being aware of one's mortality, which they then did some more improv around. So what an interesting night all the way around. I had a great time. It's always fun to be on stage with Nathan and Georgia. It was great to have some friendly faces in the audience. It was excellent to see the other performers. And yeah, just a lot of fun. And we're doing more intellectual stuff coming up. We're at Ludlow Fringe Festival on the 26th of June, which is always a great show. And then we are at Guildford Fringe Festival in July. The date's just gone out of my head at the moment, but we're going to be there as well. So if you're interested in comedy improv or comedy, or you've never been to a show like that before, you think it sounds interesting, please come and join us. I'm pretty sure you'll have a good time. Been 2 episodes of my podcast go out since the last catch-up conversation that we had. The first one of those was with Alex Nicholson Evans, who has a company called Living for the Weekend, and she runs events in Birmingham which are really cool. Birmingham Wine Weekend, Birmingham Cocktail Weekend, and this year for the first time later in the summer, the first ever Birmingham Restaurant Festival. And it was just really cool to talk to Alex. I know her originally. She used to work at Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery, and she was kind enough to give me a couple of gigs there to play. And actually I launched one of my records there as well, which Alex helped to organise. And it was just really fascinating. She's very entrepreneurial, and it was cool to talk about that. She's not from Birmingham originally, but she's moved there, so it was interesting to sort of talk to someone who's chosen Birmingham as a home and how they see the city. And then, of course, all the usual stuff about how that whole sector's obviously been affected by the pandemic, and how she feels it's going to go as we go to the other side of it. So very fascinating. I would recommend that you listen to that. And then the most recent episode is a conversation with a guy called Peter Strauss, who's a producer for BBC Radio comedy. So I was talking to him about comedy writing and finding new talent and those sorts of things. So again, both very fascinating conversations. That's on my podcast, which is the Robert Lane Creative Careers Podcast. You can find it on my website, robertlanemusic.co.uk. I've recently had reason to use my stoic or mindful approach to one aspect of my work. I'd mentioned to you before, I think, that I've been trying to use the Bryan Cranston approach to auditions, which is to think I'm not here to get a job, I'm here to do a job, and whatever happens after the audition is kind of none of my business, but my role is to do the best that I can in that moment and present the best choices and stuff. And I've been doing that recently with a few self-tapes and an in-person audition as well, but it's been tested because a couple of them I haven't got them, and I've had nice feedback, which is cool. They've said, we haven't gone with you this time, but we appreciated what you did and we'll keep you in mind for future stuff, which might just be a nice thing that people say, but to take it at face value, that's pretty cool. Because as we say in the actor's life, like, you've got in the room, that's the main thing. At least they know who you are now and have seen you do some work. But it's tricky, it's still a rejection at the end of the day. And of course I have rejections all the time. I'm trying to book shows at the moment, and I am booking some, but then some replies you get are just like, no, we're not going to book you. A reply that I don't mind is, our gig isn't right for you, or you're not right for our gig. I appreciate that, because that's honest, and it's someone who takes a pride in the shows that they put on, and I don't mind that. It's not you're rubbish, it's just not right for this event. And also, it wouldn't be worth my while doing it, perhaps, because the event wouldn't be right for me either. But it's still a not back. Same with podcasting. You invite people on your show and they might say yes, they might say maybe, they might say no, or they might say nothing at all. And it's all just part of the thing. There's that business thing, isn't there, of trying to go out and, because rejections, you could think of it as that rejections are part of getting useful things. So actually you should go out and seek a rejection. I think it's something on the lines of, try and get a couple of rejections every day. So go to the coffee shop, and when you order your cappuccino, ask for 20% off. And they'll only say no, and that's your first rejection out of the way. They might say yes, and you get 20% off your coffee. And in all forms of all businesses and all life, I know that rejection is an important part, particularly it seems in the creative and arts side of things as well. But I think I'm all right at the moment with how I'm dealing with it. It's frustrating. The sort of inner monologue that goes on for me as a creative sometimes is always there. One of the things I've been thinking about just today actually is like, am I all in on this? Other people have achieved this or have achieved that. Is it because they're more talented, or is it because they're working hard? Are you working hard enough? Are you all in? Are you putting 100% of your effort into this? A constant one for me is because I'm trying to do different things, write songs and perform music, be an actor, do comedy things, do a podcast, teach guitar. And it's like, wow, really, you're digging all these different oil wells, and just as you're starting to hit the oil in one, you move on to another one. But then I think, oh, fuck it, I'm interested in all these things, so I want to find out as much about them as possible. That's kind of my approach to it. What do you think? Would I do better if I was laser focused on one thing, or would that just be a bit boring? I think everyone has a uniqueness to them, and it's the combination of the things they're interested in and the things that they're good at are the I was reading another thing recently that kind of said to be the best at one thing is actually so difficult, and so few people are obviously going to do that. It's kind of pointless to try, but to be above average at a few different things is probably quite good. So I am the above average musician who's also above average actor, above average improviser, above average podcaster. Maybe that's what the world needs. Maybe not. Anyway, I'm going to round up there for now. Thank you for watching or listening. All the projects that I work on are gathered together on my website, which is robertlanemusic.co.uk. I would love to hear from you if you're following any of those, or if you've watched this and have any thoughts on what we've been talking about. Do let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on all the social media channels. I'm Robert Lane Music across everything. That would be lovely. Until next time, take care.